I know what you're thinking. You have a great schedule of content, but how do you find time to do it all? Especially if you're scheduling 3 months in advance. Are you going to work on 3 months of content all in a day? Well, that's actually where batching comes in. Switching context is the best way to kill productivity. Your brain is working on one problem, and then all of a sudden you need to switch contexts and work on a completely different problem. That's why meetings are so detrimental to productivity, and that's why if you're anything like me, the longer you work on a single task, the more efficient you get at it. So let's talk about how you can remain consistent in your content creation by batching. Batching content is setting aside time to do a bunch of episodes all at once. You pick a day that's dedicated to just creating podcast content, recording, editing, prepping. I like to do 4 episodes at a time, mostly because with interviews, anything more than that sees a drop in quality. I get really tired and I don't ask the best questions. So you should pick 1 day a week to work on your podcast. And I do understand that maybe this doesn't work for you if you have a full-time job, but set aside some time where it's just you working on your podcast. So like I said, your process should work for you. If you have a day job, maybe you just do 1 episode per evening, or set aside half of a day where you got all of your work done. I don't want to suggest weekends or anything like that. I want you to do what works best for you. So here's what my batching process looks like. I like to record on Thursdays. So Thursdays, my entire calendar is blocked off just for recording podcast episodes. If I don't have interviews that day, then I'll record bumpers or extra content, ad spots, things like that. My booking link for interviews only has Thursdays, though of course I can be more flexible than that. And then I will prep all of the episodes for editing. I put them in Dropbox and then it's off to my editor. We'll talk more about that later. Mondays are for actually shipping the episodes. So my editor turns the podcast episodes around pretty quickly. He'll put them in Dropbox. And then once he's edited them, it's up to me to put them in WordPress, to prep the show notes, create the artwork, and then schedule them out on their publish dates. Since Monday is generally a pretty low productive day for me, the podcast prep and publishing is a great repetitive, low effort work that I can do thanks to my checklists. So you'll notice that I have 2 days set aside, 1 for recording and 1 for prep. On Mondays, I'll also write outlines for solo episodes and things like that. But since I'm in the recording context on Thursdays, it makes me more efficient. My mindset is right. I'm not going to mess up as much. I'm going to have the intro down pat. Your batch process should work for you. So like I said, if you have a day job or something like that, maybe dedicating a full workday won't work for you. Maybe 1 episode a day for 10 days will work better. But here's what I recommend. When you're figuring out what to batch, I want you to look at your calendar for the next few weeks and see if you have any completely open days. If you do have a completely open day where you can do batch content, block that off on your calendar. It doesn't have to be the full 8 hours, but just say from like 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., I am only doing podcast work. Don't let people put stuff on your calendar. This is really important. Once you're out beyond a few weeks, then pick a day that works for you and block off that day on your calendar. Again, putting it on your calendar kind of sets it in stone. It says, I'm not available at this time. I am only doing podcasting stuff at this time. And as you do this, keep in mind that you might not need to do it every week if your content plan allows for it. For me, I will basically every Thursday I'll record interviews because I want to be at least somewhat flexible in that when I'm recording with other people and using up their time. But when I'm prepping episodes, I'll usually do 4 or 5 at a time, and then I'll have an entire month scheduled out. I like to do 4 or 5 at a time because if something changes and I need to update a sponsor spot, or if I need to add a new promo in there, I don't have to go back and re-edit the episode. So that's what I recommend. Look at your calendar in the immediate, look at your calendar for the next few weeks and see if you have any blocks of time. It doesn't even need to be a completely open day. It could just be a block of time where you can say, I'm not available. This is when I'm doing my podcast work. And then once you're out beyond a few weeks and your calendar clears up a little bit more, pick a day of the week that works for you and block off that time on your calendar. So there's the action item, but one more thing before we get to the action item. If you are booking guests or meetings in general, I would strongly recommend Calendly, and I'll show you my Calendly setup in the next video, but it's flexible. It allows you to block off meeting times for people. So you can set it so people can only grab specific times on your calendar. That's how I can say I only do interviews on Thursday, and then everything else is blocked off. So I would strongly recommend Calendly. It's free to start, and I think it is well worth the money that I pay for it because it has made scheduling so much easier. It allows me to adhere to my time blocking and my content batching. So your action item. Pick your first few batch days, put them on your calendar, and share your day and reasoning in a post at the Student Center so that your fellow course takers can see your reasoning and maybe it'll help them out a little bit.